Hi, this is Teddy, and you're listening to Kim Nelson from South Carolina on Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Demcast Podcast Network.
Are you listening?
Hi everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Demcast family of podcasts, and I am on today with Kim Nelson, who is running for Congress in the South Carolina 4th District. Hi, Kim.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me. So everyone who knows that my other role is as Demcast Director of Content might know that I read all of the Meet the Candidate surveys that come in, and we've posted, 140 or something at this point. And don't tell anyone else, but yours was my absolute favorite so far.
I'm honored.
I read yours and said, this is a woman like me. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Congress.
I am a millennial. I'm about to have my 35th birthday. I've got two little girls. They're 6 and 4. And I got into all of this because my husband has a pre-existing condition. And in 2016, life got really precarious for us, even though we have our health insurance through his employer. And that kind of, the need to advocate for my family, for, someone I love, that led me to activism. I protested, I called my legislators, and it wasn't enough. We defeated repeal and replace. We defeated skinny repeal, all of those Republican-generated bills meant to tear down the Affordable Care Act. But it kind of occurred to me that the only way things were really going to change was if someone like me was in office. I have my master's in public health, and I've actually specialized in health policy. And so I guess I kind of look at things a different way. And that's a perspective that we don't really have in Congress right now, believe it or not.
So tell me a little bit about this district, the South Carolina 4th District. It looks on paper like it's fairly Republican leaning, and that's what it's done in the past few election cycles. But what does it look like on the ground, and what do you see as sort of your path to victory here?
So this is Trey Gowdy's old seat, if that tells you anything. But Trey Gowdy didn't seek re-election in 2018. And I think that was a sign that this district is changing. In 2016, the last Democrat to run against Trey Gowdy got about 31% of the vote. 2018, we increased that to about 37%. And this is an area, it's most of Greenville County, most of Spartanburg County. We're kind of in the mountainous northwestern corner of South Carolina. And we keep popping up on these, best places to live, best places to raise a family list. And so this area is changing. It's bringing in a lot of people from outside of South Carolina. We are getting bluer. We just flipped our entire city council blue for the first time in, maybe ever, certainly within the past 25-ish years. And so we are seeing real change here on the ground. And every time Republicans run, they lose a little bit of ground. So the right candidate who can motivate the base, who can expand the electorate, who can give people a reason to come out to the polls, we could do this and it could be competitive.
What are you hearing from people as you go around and you talk to people, you go to events, knock on doors? What are the kinds of issues that are really motivating them right now that are making them stay up at night? What might be driving people to the polls?
That's honestly my favorite part about running for office is getting to meet people and the things you hear. It varies from person to person. A lot of families here means a lot of people care about common sense gun control. This is an area that has a big textile heritage. We've always kind of had this manufacturing identity, and we now have a heavy hand in the auto manufacturing industry. So a lot of people here work for Michelin or BMW or the companies that support them. And so these Trump tariffs have really hurt this district and kind of we're a right to work state. So there are a lot of economic issues. This was an area that was particularly hard hit by the recession in 2008. And there's still a lot of anxiety around a potential recession, around wages, around growing income inequality here. But I think it's healthcare too, and it's climate. This is an area that has a lot of natural resources. We're in the foothills of the mountains. You don't have to go far to hit natural beauty. We have a waterfall downtown, for crying out loud. I think we might be one of the few cities in the U.S. that can boast that, and it's our claim to fame. But our river is so polluted that you're not supposed to get in it. So we do care a lot about the environment here. We want to protect our natural resources. We want to ensure that people have health care because we know what it's like to go without, to have one health crisis ruin your family's financial viability. And those are the issues that keep popping up as I talk to more and more people.
So on the subject of public health, we have this potential epidemic crisis with coronavirus. Right now, it's at least a crisis in Asia, whether or not it will end up being anything like that in the U.S. But what are the sorts of things that you would like to see the federal government doing to prepare us for, the possibility of superbugs, of epidemics, of kinds of things that we might start to see of? So we've seen some already and might start to see more of.
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. The Trump administration has really undercut public health in multiple ways. They've used public health funding for the CDC, for other institutions that support public health to fund the wall. So they've taken from us to fund that endeavor. Trump is not vaccinating refugees in detention centers. That's a breeding ground for an outbreak, whether it's a flu or another communicable disease. So I think this coronavirus outbreak kind of highlights the importance of public health, of a robust public health response. We don't exist in a vacuum. We're a global society. We have to be able to work with our allies to have good relationships so that we can prevent a pandemic because it's only a plane ride away. And we know that in public health, but we need funding. We need people who think in terms of how all these systems fit together. How does transportation or food supply have a bearing on national security and on our health as a nation? And I think the federal government bears a responsibility in keeping us safe from those infectious diseases. And while, we don't know what's going to happen with coronavirus, we do know what's going to happen with flu, and we are not at all prepared. They run models every year that, show what a pandemic influenza virus could do. And we are not prepared for that threat, but we know it's coming.
So tell me about running for office with kids. You said you have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I know that they can really keep you on your toes. And obviously, helps inform why you want to run for office. But what does that look like, practically speaking? Are your daughters interested in your run for office? How much can you or can't you involve them, and what sorts of challenges does that present?
I try to bring my kids with me as much as I can to as many spaces as I can, not just because, sometimes I just can't find childcare, although that is a legitimate reason why sometimes they are with me. I also just want them to understand that this is a space for them. I have 2 little girls, so I didn't really have anyone growing up who I could look to who was a female in politics and say, that could be me one day. So that power of representation, of seeing yourself reflected in the candidate, that's really powerful, especially as we try to recruit more women to run for office. But because we are women, we have families, we have responsibilities. That means that they are frequently with us. So, my kids showed up we had a brewery event this past weekend, and they were there because there's a big open grassy area, and they were running around while my campaign manager played with them, and I talked to people who, were interested in our race. But we also, as a campaign, just because my kids play such a big part of my life and, the reasons why I'm running, I know what it's like to care an awful lot about politics and to want to be involved, but not feel like it's a space for you because you've got small children, and you can't always get a babysitter for every little thing. And they're not events that want to engage Democrats or anyone really aren't always spaces for children. So we have hosted several campaign events specifically with a focus on kids. We're going to be making Valentine's Day cards this coming weekend and delivering them to a senior living facility so that kids can see this is what we do when we want to make change. We all come together and we roll up our sleeves and we do this together because it's bigger than any one person. And it also gives parents a chance to engage in a meaningful way.
I love that. My kids would love those sorts of events.
Yeah, right? Like, just put on your mom hat, and that kind of leads the way.
Yeah. So one of the things you had listed in your Meet the Candidates survey under hobbies, and this was, the thing that really made me be like, yes, was smashing the patriarchy as a hobby, and I know obviously that's, a fun thing that you put in, but what does that look like for you? What are some of the ways, running for office obviously is one of them, but that you are looking to smash the patriarchy, what are some sort of practical ways that you would like to see that done?
So let me preface this by saying that South Carolina has not, we currently don't have a single woman from the state of South Carolina, Republican or Democrat, representing us in Congress. That's a big problem. And I think women tend to get more done because we're willing to collaborate. We're willing to find that common ground and get what we can accomplished. And so we are missing that perspective, and we desperately need it. I'm happy to report that there are, to my knowledge, 3 women running for Congress as Democrats from South Carolina in 3 different congressional districts. So hopefully that's going to change soon. But I think, smashing the patriarchy, as an elected official, you advocate for policies that center women and that center women's struggles so that we have a chance to earn equal pay for equal work, so that we have policies that make it easier for women to gain economic mobility. So it's not just pay, it's also childcare, it's universal pre-K, it's paid family leave, right? Kids get sick. Every working parent knows that. But it's often women who are the ones who lose their day's work or their career advancement opportunities or give up their career entirely because the cost of childcare is so prohibitive that they're forced out, basically. I think it also goes into stronger sexual harassment and assault language, stricter laws on the books. And my opponent, he didn't even vote to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act. That should be such a low-hanging fruit on ways that concretely help women. But he didn't do it because it had provisions around gun control in there. And we can't divorce gun violence from domestic violence. The two are completely and totally linked. But that, I guess, he's not willing to link them in his mind, I guess. That's intellectually dishonest to me, but, that's how he operates. And I think as we try to build a more equitable society, we have to dig deep like that, and we have to look at kind of all policies, not just economic, and their bearing on women, and who really benefits from enshrining the laws and the statutes that we currently have.
So South Carolina is, of course, one of the first primary states for the presidential race, and that is coming up and sort of taking up all the oxygen in the room. I'm ready for the presidential primary to be completely over, but what does that look like in South Carolina right now? And do you see a difference this time around? Are people in South Carolina paying a lot of attention to the presidential race? Does that then drive some attention and activism down toward down ballot races, or does it stop at the presidential election? Like, what does that sort of look like?
I think everybody is kind of approaching burnout. Honestly, it's been relentless for the better part of a year here. And we know that after our primary is February 29th for the presidential primary in South Carolina. And we know that come March 1st, we kind of disappear for the Democratic Party because they write us off as a red state, which I think is underestimating us, but that's another topic. So I think voters here are they share your sentiment. I think they're ready for it to be over, but it is exciting to have so many qualified people running for president. It is, I think, engaging people in a way that maybe they haven't engaged before. And you cannot underscore enough how ready people are to get Donald Trump out of office. And so what's encouraging to me as somebody who's running down ballot is that people are going to turn out just to do that. They want him out. They're going to vote for Democrats. We have straight ticket voting in South Carolina. So they're going to hit that D button and then go home. And that's going to, rising tide lifts all ships. We're going to see a bit of a pop for Democrats down ballot, too, as a result of that.
That would be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I also think that people are sort of underestimating South Carolina. I think it's more in line than people realize with things like states like Georgia, where we're seeing that shift, and people are starting to think of that as a state that could go blue soon. I think the same is true in South Carolina.
Yeah, I think so. We talk a lot about the role that voter suppression played in the Georgia gubernatorial race with Stacey Abrams, and in Florida with Andrew Gillum, and we tend to talk about the concrete ways that voters are suppressed or disenfranchised. They close polling places. They get ID laws on the books. You have to have a photo ID to vote in South Carolina too. But what we don't talk about enough is the demoralization campaign. Republicans here, they have done a really good job of making Democrats feel like you're the only one here. You are one vote. It's not going to change anything, so don't even bother. And I'm here to tell people, one, I am a native of South Carolina. I grew up in my district. I have seen the change because I left after college and then I came back. So, yes, you are not alone. There are other Democrats here. And I think once people see that, then they start to feel like things could change and they could be part of that. And it's empowering and it's motivating, and we need to capitalize on that.
So if other people are fired up about South Carolina and being able to flip some of these districts, what are some ways that they can help out your campaign?
Well, if you're fired up, obviously campaigns, especially congressional campaigns, they take a lot of resources. So if you're able to donate, that's a great way. Even if you live out of state, you could help. I'm a grassroots campaigner. I am not taking corporate PAC money. I don't come in with a personal network that can get me to 100,000 like a lot of candidates do. So yeah, even a $15 donation for a campaign like mine helps immensely. So that's number one. Number two, phone banking. You don't have to be local to do that. Obviously, if people want to fly in and knock on doors for us, we won't turn them away.
South Carolina's beautiful.
It is. And in the fall, the leaves are changing. It's gorgeous. We're in the mountains if you like to hike. But yeah, just, amplifying Democrats, helping us reach more voters, helping us continue our fight. Those are some really concrete ways that you can help, not just my campaign, but really any campaign that's stepping up in a red state. We don't get a lot of national resources because, just quite frankly, national Democrats tend to write off the South as a chunk. And we have to get out of that mindset, because resources on the front end would be game changing for Southern races. But we often have an uphill battle convincing people that we are worth it. And I assure you we are.
And if anyone wants to get rid of Lindsey Graham in the Senate, which everyone should want to do,
right,
then helping out with down ballot races in South Carolina helps with up ballot races too.
Exactly. We are all in for Jamie Harrison. We want to see him take out Lindsey Graham and, take back a Senate seat, but also get rid of one of Trump's loudest supporters.
Yes. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk about today?
No, we've covered a lot of ground. My social media is at Kim for SC. That's the word for FOR, not the number. I have to, because my congressional district is the 4th district, so people ask a lot, and I'm like, know the word. Yeah, thank you for all you're doing to elevate Democratic voices. That's a huge help.
Yeah, absolutely. We love when women are running for office, and especially women who are moms of young kids. Very dear to my heart to have you running for office. So thank you for running. And we will put on our website a link to your website and your social media so people can find you that way.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Dimcast Podcast Network. Our theme song is called Are You Listening off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.